All right, so we have cut the hole for our searing door, and it looks great. I'll show you that once we raise the door up. But it's time to put the hinges on. And I like to use a piece of threaded rod, and it's just hand snug down. Don't use a wrench because you'll want to adjust these. And you can't leave them too loose because they'll slop around, obviously. But if you just snug them up about where you want them, they'll stay in position good, and we're able to sight down that threaded rod and also look up here in the corners to make sure that we're spaced exactly the way we want, which we have about a 1/4 inch. The way these are designed, on a 2-inch band, we have about a 1/4 of an inch, maybe 3/8 of an inch of leeway there that we can go either way. These hinges are set for 24 or 30 inch, which is a 250 gallon tank. So a 120 gallon tank, which obviously this is pipe, but it's 24 inches, or the 30 inch 250 gallon tank. The radius on this one will work just fine. If you're putting them on a flat surface, like on the door over here, you'll want to grind that a little bit more flat. You'll take about, I don't know, probably a 1/4 of an inch actually up here if it's on a flat surface, but they will fit fine. The door is sitting here somewhere. I can show you that in just a little bit. And of course the back hinge just mounts on the side as usual. The radius is so short on those that it doesn't make any difference. You don't have to grind those for a flat surface. So anyway, simply line them up the way that you want, and I like to use a very thin stainless steel washer between my parts. So there's that little washer right there. Of course, 1/2 inch threaded rod, the first vertical piece, then a 1/2 inch stainless washer, and then the horizontal piece, and then another 1/2 inch stainless washer. And that just helps things. It just acts as a bushing. You don't have to use that. I just do. And if something happens in your welding and you don't tack right, or for whatever reason you pull sideways a little bit, if you have to, you can leave one of those washers out. I've actually had to do that a couple years ago on a tank. The parts just didn't line up. I don't know if I didn't weld it just right or something. It wasn't tacked down good, and I took one of the 2 washers out, and it worked just great. Since then, I've been very diligent on my tacks. I tack the front here, the back on this side, and then come do that again there, and then front just a tiniest tack. Tack here, tack there, tack here, tack there, with these snug down very good, and they'll stay in place then. They won't want to lean on you. And then come back and put you a stitch weld on that side, stitch weld on that side. Actually, I let them cool. I stitch, and then come stitch this one, work on these back here, and 10 or 15 minutes later, when everything's cooled down, I'll come back and do the other side. That's just so that I don't induce any heat into that that lid right there, because that lid is so perfect. And I actually have little pads of Lava Lock door seal, just 4 little patches, one here, one there, one here, one there, and they're acting as spacers so that I get my hinge altitude right. And of course the door is held on nice and snug with a ratchet strap there, and I've got it centered both from side to side and up and down. So my gaps are right on the sides, my gaps are right on the top and the bottom. I'm happy with where the door's sitting. I cinched it down, I stuck my head in, double checked it, and everything looks good. So I'm ready to set these hinges. So I am going to come off of this top band back here in this corner, about 1/8 of an inch on either one. I'm going to verify that my distance is the same. That's 1 3/4 inches. That's a little less than 1 3/4 inches, so we're going to end up being about 1 5/8 inches. That looks pretty darn good. Yep, that looks pretty good. What I'm going to do is adjust this one out just a bit. So I'm loosening the outside one and tightening this one, and it pushed the whole assembly out. so that I'm a nice even number. Yeah, that looks good. 1 5/8 inch. 1 5/8. That's perfect. So double check back here on the back, make sure that I'm straight, and those look pretty darn good. Make sure I'm snug down good, and I will tack those up and be back with you in a minute. All right, so I've tacked them in place. 2 tacks on either side here, and of course the other pieces too. Let's unstrap it, see what we get. This is kind of like opening a Christmas present for me. You just never know how it's going to turn out until you test it. All right. Nice. That is very, very nice. And that's a super fit. Feel the inside. Oh man, it is super nice. Nice. And then those pads, although they're just four small pads, probably a 1/2 inch by, I don't know, 3/4 of an inch, maybe an inch. And the reason I only use 4 small pads is I want those to crush. Because over time our door seals that go all the way around are going to crush. So I have found that just the 4 pads works out just about right to simulate the normal door seal crush that happens over time, and that will put my hinge height exactly where we want it. Now remember, if we don't space this door up just a little bit, that's all well and fine if we do not intend to use door seal material. I always use door seal material because I want to save as much vacuum that is created by that stack as I can to come in through this door. Everything is controlled by the air that comes in the door. I don't want air leaking going in that way. And obviously if your smoker leaks before it heats up and that stack starts working, starts pulling a vacuum or draft, if it leaks out of spots like this before the system heats up, when the system does heat up and that stack starts working, comes online and starts working, pulling a draft, then you're going to be leaking air in. A lot of guys will very happily say, oh, well, my system doesn't leak smoke once it gets up to temperature. Well, that's what you're doing. You're leaking vacuum going in here that needs to be going to that fire to feed that fire so it'll run efficiently. So I will, boy, that's nice. I will go ahead and weld these in place off camera. You can see these little pads here. And the door came out very, very nice. You can see the hole, the door hole came out very, very nice. I was real happy with that. So cutting those with the cold saw, in my opinion, is definitely the way to go. So I will weld those up off camera and be back in just a bit.